Now, Shelley More is the job developer from the Canadian Career Academy, and her talk is going to be supporting individuals with mental illness in the workplace. Now, Shelley has worked with the Canadian Career Academy for the past 13 years in a variety of capacities, including employment specialist, human resource specialist, and job developer. She also twists my arm and tells me off from time to time, but does it nicely. Prior to joining CCA, she worked as an associate coach for Career Joy and has extensive human resources experience in the hospitality industry in Ontario and New Jersey over a 15-year period. She holds a human resources diploma from Algonquin College and life coaching certificate from Erickson College. Shelley is a wife and mother of 3 special needs children adopted through Lanark County Children's Association and has successfully advocated for children's educational supports through both the elementary and secondary systems. Shelley and her husband are actively involved in promoting and advocating for fetal alcohol syndrome disorder in Ontario, and most recently played a key role in getting FASD Awareness Day recognized by the province, and the first reading of Bill 191 to amend the Education Act to support individuals impacted with FASD and their families in the Ontario educational system. Shelley is compassionate and a determined individual, a professional who's demonstrated success engaging and building positive client-employer relationships that almost always lead to successful outcomes. Shelley will bring her personal story about her own journey back to mental health and how CCA successfully demonstrated and accommodated her return to work. Now, you need the microphone down so you can be heard.
Hello. So please indulge me for a moment to share how it came to be that I was your presenter today for the supporting individuals with mental illness in the workplace. We at the Canadian Career Academy felt that it was a very important piece of the mental health presentation and set out to find an expert speaker. We thought we had a service provider lined up, but in January it fell through, and so we scrambled to find another agency. We contacted 2 other agencies, but the cost and the short notice made these avenues impossible. I had been praying throughout the organization of this event to overcome some of the obstacles that we had encountered, such as losing a keynote speaker, and Toby graciously agreed to do it. And so all those avenues, all those obstacles, I was praying over, and I had this little, so some people might think I'm weird by saying this, but I had this little inner voice, or, speaking to me saying, come on, Shelley, you know you need to put your voice to this. Yeah, go away, I don't want to be doing this. So this has been happening for several months. Basically, the thought of sharing my story was terrifying, so I just ignored it. Well, all the obstacles were being removed one by one, except this piece. So, very reluctantly, I said, okay, I'll listen. And I approached Rob about me presenting my personal journey through mental illness and return to work. Everyone I spoke to get guidance and advice about thought it was a fantastic idea, and so that's why I'm standing here in front of you today. I'm not sure if you know this, but 1 in 3 people will experience mental illness in their lifetime or know someone who has. That means 24 people here today have experienced mental illness or know someone who has. 24. As you're probably aware, the Bell Let's Talk campaign has brought a lot of awareness to what mental health is and how we can help. How weird is it that I'm speaking publicly for the first time just a day after their campaign? I'm not going to share the full details of my story, as the specific events doesn't need to be known to understand my story. The reality is, the world as I knew it came crashing down in May of 2015. I remember coming home from work on Friday and pure chaos arising at the moment I stepped through the door. On the Saturday, I can remember the feeling in my whole body when I felt broken. But I had to plug away to get through the crisis. I called Rob on the Sunday, my boss Rob, to say that I wouldn't be into work and gave him some of the details as to what was happening. Looking back, I can say, poor Rob, he experienced someone completely and totally out of control. Lots of hysterics, crying, and trying to get the words out. He was so compassionate and caring and told me, don't worry, take care of yourself and your family. That was the last time I spoke to him for months. I remember this because it was so meaningful that he allowed me the space and time to deal with what was happening in my life. I also remember driving home from Chio in the wee hours of the morning on Monday and getting home and just crashing. I was done. That was the last time I drove for 6 months. I had started my journey with mental illness. So over the next several months, I started to learn through my doctor, naturopath, and counselor that the effects of some of my earlier traumas, the ones that most of us have experienced in our lifetimes, death, bad bosses, sickness, all of those things. Maybe I had a few more than some people, but a few less than others. But what I discovered, though, was the cumulative effect of this current crisis had rendered me incapacitated. My bucket had been full and overflowing for a long time. My body and mind shut down. I was diagnosed with depression and generalized anxiety. I learned that even though I dealt with these previous traumas, I didn't learn effective coping strategies to help me overcome the negative impact these stressors were having on my mental and physical health. I had just always powered on. I experienced constant fatigue. My body chemistry was all messed up. I couldn't eat, sleep. My body hurt everywhere. Everything was scaring me. I couldn't stop shaking for days on end. My memory was terrible. I was repeating words, repeating conversations, forgetting things. I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to Alzheimer's, that kind of stuff. It was kind of scary. I thought I was losing my mind. I was constantly angry and filled with doom and gloom. And it was becoming impossible to even get out of bed. As you may have already figured out based on my inner voice comment, I believe in God. My recovery was grounded in my faith, family, and friends. They were the only constant in my life, and I held on to them so tightly, I sometimes wonder how they survived. CCA and Rob Probert were huge for me. They simply said, do what you need to do. Take as long as you need and get the necessary help. Your job will be here when you come back. I was put on medical leave. I began taking the steps necessary for recovery, but probably one of the most valuable pieces of information my medical team shared with me was to look at how long I'd been spiraling due to my past traumas and all the things that were going on in my life. They explained that my recovery time would likely be how long you've been experiencing this will probably be how long it's going to take you to recover. It's all about the accumulation. This is why it's so important to seek help after experiencing trauma, whether you need it or not. I was, again, one of those people just powered on, took the time off I needed, the 5-day bereavement when somebody passed on or whatever. but my body, my mind didn't really grieve it and didn't really give it enough time. So that's one piece of advice I have for you and your employees is take the time you need to properly grieve and find your coping strategies. It doesn't go away until you learn how to actually manage it. In my case, it has been a long road back and continues to be a long road back. It's been almost 3 years. I have run into some setbacks along the way as well, and CCA has also understood that. One of the big setbacks was early on in the treatment. After I was put on medical leave, I did receive EI, but because it wasn't a psychiatrist that diagnosed me, my LTD was denied. Rob and Laura went to bat for me, but the insurance company relied on that tiny print to deny my claim, and they didn't budge. I could have appealed the decision, but it was bringing me back into a negative state and hindering my progress. So we let it go. A lesson learned there: know what your benefit insurance providers require for LTD. This obviously put added stress on us financially, but my husband found a way to manage it until I could return to work. After 8 months away from work, I was terrified of coming back to work. The self-doubt: can I still do this job? Can I help people? How was I going to get to work? I wasn't driving. What will people think? You know, the whole stigma thing, or treating me differently, walking around like eggshells. My whole career had been about helping people, and I wasn't sure what I had to give. My medical team helped with all these questions and created a plan to help me get back to work. CCA and Rob again were incredibly accommodating. The team of CCA managed my clients during my absence so I could focus on getting well. If anyone knows me, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, have a very strong work ethic, and believe in delivering 100% customer satisfaction. So this assurance that my clients were being supported was so helpful for me to move on and focus on me. I started with 3 days per week and reduced my client load, ensuring I had a maximum of 45 minutes per client and half-hour breaks to do notes and collect myself before seeing the next client. CCA also allowed me to take snow days if the roads were too bad in the winter, because I still was a very nervous driver. And yes, as you probably figured out, I did get back in behind the wheel. I had to develop systems to keep myself on track, timers, so I knew what 10 minutes versus 45 minutes was, because my sense of time was completely gone. I had to write everything down, and my team helped me learn effective coping strategies that would work for me. I developed the ability to recognize and reflect on where my bucket level was at all times, and what I needed at that moment to get it in a state of positivity, calmness, and productivity. Yes, sometimes I forget to check in with myself. I'm human, but I make a conscious effort. And my team makes a really conscious effort. They're always checking in. Over time, I was able to go to 4 days a week and a full client load. I still had to rely on my task scheduler, reminders, notes, etc., because my memory was still impacted, but I was able to function successfully. Sometimes you'll hear me say things like, if my head wasn't attached, or, ooh, we're a little foggy today. And that's my way of letting my team know it's a harder day today. When I got my doctor's clearance to return to regular duties, Rob and I had a conversation. He agreed moving forward to let me work 4 days a week so that I had a day off for self-care, appointments, etc., and juggling my parent role with 3 special needs children. Rob and Laura have always respected my privacy, and it is great to know if I experience setbacks, I don't have to have a long conversation with them. I can just tell them what I need. They get it. I was also so appreciative of the fact that when I was going through my recovery, they would call my husband about once a month to see how I was doing. For the longest time, I wasn't in the mental state to talk to them. This is the key. They weren't calling just as an employer. They showed true compassion and care. This is what employees need to feel like. They belong and are missed. It was a year before I was able to get back to work, working 4 days a week, and my medical team were actually surprised that I came back that quickly. CCA was a huge part of that. They gave me purpose, which was key for me. They gave me an incentive to recover, and their encouragement was a huge support. I thank my colleagues for their support, but I don't know if they understand the little things that helped and continue to help. Kim, with her steadfast support, eye for detail, and reminders to take care of myself. Rachel's unwavering commitment to help, and her attentive care to the plants in my office. Every time I look at my plants, I think of my team and how much they supported and cared for me. Patsy's incredible support with data entry for my files and her patience with me when I was trying to get up to speed on Canadian Ontario Job Grant. And yes, even my 2 new colleagues, Emma and Mary, for their willingness to help out wherever they can, even without knowing the details of my recovery journey. They made a difference of me being here today. They continue to make a difference. Sorry. Although I'm still on the road to recovery, I'd say I feel like I'm around 90% my full self again. Who knows? Maybe I'll always have to be deliberate about my mental health. The good news, I'm able to contribute now to my family, my friends, my employer, and my community. I've discovered it's really important to work on the things you love and to focus on your strengths. So when I'm not raising my family, or at work or church, I'm actively involved in the Lanark-Leeds-Grenville FASD work group to help build capacity in our communities for those people impacted with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder and their families. In fact, my husband and I have been instrumental in getting Awareness Day, September 9th, recognized in Ontario, and bringing Bill 191 to amend the Education Act to get the necessary supports for children, teens impacted with FASD and their families, the support they need in our educational system. It's past first reading, and we're advocating with MPPs to get it through second and third reading. We're also going to Queen's Park for an FASD Awareness Day to inform MPPs why all of this is so vital to the future of our kids. Who would have thought such a tragedy could bring me to this point? It's not something that I would have ever thought. My hope is that you will see how employers and teams can have a significant impact on someone's successful recovery. And someone with a mental illness can be a key contributor to your organization. Rob and I have had conversations about this journey, and I can confidently say it was worth it. My coming back to work has been a win-win for both my employer and myself. If what I have shared can make a difference for one of your employees or you, I now have purpose in sharing this life experience with you because it was never my intent to ever share. I've included some great mental health resources in the handouts, which includes return to work plans and possible agencies that can help you as an employer and your employees. Please take a look at them. If you ever have any questions, we can certainly connect you with individuals that can help you or agencies. In my opinion, it is imperative that you take the time to educate yourself on mental health in the workplace. We spend most of our waking day at work, and as mentioned earlier, 1 in 3 people will experience mental illness in their lifetime or know someone. It's happening in your work. Think about how many people that means in your workplace. Do you know what to do? CCA and I navigated through it without resources. We share that I just mentioned in the emails and stuff we shared today. But if we only knew then what we know now, maybe it wouldn't have taken 8 months to get me back to work. Maybe I would have been equipped to cope with the crisis of May 2015. I know that through my faith, family, friends, and CCA, I have survived and look forward to what the future holds. When you walk away from this session, I hope you can remember, you and your team can have a positive impact on someone's recovery. Positive relationships and environments are important. And I think you've been hearing that all day today and it wasn't planned that way, but that is the way to go to help move everyone forward. People with mental illness can contribute fruitfully to your work and to their community. If you include the employee in their return to work action plan and understand what they need for accommodation, which is going back to having the doctor tell clearly what their limitations are, you can build a plan that will work. You do not need the diagnosis to build the plan. So a diagnosis should only be shared willingly by the employee, which goes back to that confidentiality thing that you were talking about. That's mine. Thank you.